So we don't have 60,000 years at our disposal in this Kali Yuga. If we have 100 years, we can be happy. But it is not enough to get perfection in the Ashtanga Yoga system, especially not for one who has lived in a city all his life. This Ashtanga Yoga with very severe types of penance and austerity cannot be done by any of us. So the only solution to get released from the material illusion is to hook up to somebody who is free. If you're in the ocean drowning, it is very difficult. If you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, how are you going to swim? You know, it's very difficult to swim to the shore. Where are you going to swim? Where are you going? You know? So the only release is if somebody comes to pick you up, who has a boat, you know, who is not touched by the water. So that person is called a spiritual master or a pure devotee, because, as Krishna says in the 4th chapter, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata vyuttanam dharmasya tadatanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice and a prominent rise in irreligion, at that time I descend myself, Krishna says. Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yogi. In order to give release or protection or inspiration to the devotees or the sadhus, vinashaya chaduskritam. Duskritam, that means a rascal. And it did vinash, in order to destroy the rascals, to eradicate rascals and to re-establish religious principles. I descend myself, millennium after millennium, Krishna says. So now we find the earth in an irregular type of existence. There is no dissemination of spiritual knowledge. There is no... If you turn on the television, you don't hear the Bhagavad Gita so much. You hear some information from Syria or Ukraine or whatever, and you don't get the solution in the form of the holy name or reading the... No, the solution is political democracy, voting and this and that, and it never works. There's no liberation in these kind of activities. So in this Kali Yuga, there's a need of a method for the human being to get release from this material nature. It used to be the business of religion to do that, but it doesn't seem that there's so many current religious practices that actually give release. Some release is there, but due to the lack of first of all a pure devotee or the knowledge from a pure devotee, and also the lack of a direct line of disciplic succession, meaning that the knowledge comes down from the Lord himself to his disciple, to the next disciple, to the next disciple, and so on and so forth, in an unbroken chain, an unchanged chain of knowledge. The knowledge becomes subject to speculation and change, and then you have a religious practice which is far from the original prophet or incarnation. So that's why we are very happy, us Westerners, to adopt this Indian type of culture, because there you can find, in the Vedic tradition, you can still find unbroken knowledge, unchanged, original spiritual knowledge. And that knowledge is being distributed by this Krishna consciousness movement in the form of these books, such as Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavat, and in the form of the meditation of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which we just did. These practices are coming down through an unbroken chain of masters, and Srila Prabhupada, who we honor by a murti, he came to the West to distribute this knowledge that he had realized. He actually is in contact with Krishna, a pure devotee, and the knowledge given by the pure devotee is coming down directly from Krishna. First of all, when the pure devotee speaks, he only speaks from the Shastra, from the scripture, and he only speaks, and because he speaks from the scripture, which is given by God himself, unless it's been changed, of course, but the unchanged scripture you can still find in India. The Indians are very, very conservative. They preserve the text very nicely. They're unchanged, and there has been some archaeological studies to see if they are changed or not, but they're not. They found no changes, even if they go back thousands of years. The Vedic texts are still the same. And because a pure devotee only speaks from Shastra, which is non-different from what God says, then he becomes inspired by God. That means when the pure devotee speaks, actually, it is God speaking. There is no difference. Or as he once said, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee will only speak when Krishna tells him to speak. Otherwise he is silent. So, we take it that the pure devotee means somebody who only gives the instruction that's coming from the Lord himself. And actually, how can we know that? Well, we can try the practices given by the pure devotee, such as chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, such as reading these books, such as taking prasad, such as doing various service in the temple. You can taste that nectar, you can taste that, the feeling of becoming released from material consciousness, which is painful, and the increase in spiritual consciousness, which is blissful. Spiritual consciousness is Satchidananda. It's eternal, it's full of bliss, it's full of enlightenment, knowledge, knowing, you know. And material consciousness means that it's temporary, it's full of misery, and full of ignorance. So from temporary, miserable ignorance, we have to go to eternal, enjoyable enlightenment. And that is done by the process of hearing. The ear is very important in order to know how to surrender to Krishna. Krishna says, if you surrender to me, then you can overcome this material energy, this illusion, this suffering, birth, death, old age, disease, all kinds of pains we have in this material world. You can overcome by surrender to me. Surrender to me. Simple word. So what does it mean? Surrender to me. Maybe somebody on the phone can tell us. What does it mean, surrender to me? That means how to surrender to Krishna we have to learn. And that learning that is by listening. You listen to the pure devotee speaking. You listen to, and the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, he very cleverly, not only did he give lectures wherever he came, so that the conditioned souls could hear the vibration of the pure devotee and thus become liberated and follow his instructions, chanting Hare Krishna and so forth. No, he also wrote about 60 volumes of books, which were intended to be the guiding light or even the law book for spiritual practice for the next, let's say, 10,000 years. In the there is a statement in one of the Puranas that there will be a rise in this specific Kali Yuga for 10,000 years of Krishna consciousness. We take it that these books, this edition of Bhagavad Gita with the explanation of the pure devotee and the Bhagavatam with the explanation of the pure devotee, these are the books that will save the world for the next 10,000 years. Yes. How to surrender to Krishna, what that means is one has to educate himself by hearing the words of the pure devotee. Reading the books of a pure devotee is the same thing, that's also hearing. You hear with your inner ear, or if you read aloud you can hear also with the outer ear, and so on and so forth. So it's very strongly recommended. Krishna says, if you surrender to me, you can overcome material nature, you can be blissful, free of fear, free of suffering. It's recommended that one educate oneself by studying the Bhagavad Gita. So, study the Bhagavad Gita at home, or maybe listen to the radio on 87.6, there's also Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam reading there. And learn from Srila Prabhupada, who is a surrendered soul, who actually, we can even dare to say that he actually came from Krishna's world to us. to save us, and learn from him how to surrender to Krishna, and then become free of Maya. That means we have to do as the Indians do, conserve the knowledge. We have to repeat exactly as it is and do exactly as it's said in the books. Not think that we are in the West, so we have to do it a little bit differently. No. The truth is the truth. The absolute truth is absolute, and that means there can be no news about the absolute truth. There's nothing new. You cannot make a new invention. Now, in this modern age, the absolute truth is a little different, because everything is a little different in the modern age, so we also have to make the philosophy a little different. No, it's the same exact truth as it's always been, and it's written down in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, and also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and all these books you can buy from there on the shelf over there. You can buy them if you don't have them. Very low price actually. So that is recommended. So surrendering to Krishna means chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, reading these books, practice what's in the books, eating the food offered to the Lord, chanting and singing and reading and listening together with the devotees. It's a very simple process. There's nothing difficult. The difficulty is that the practice requires that one gives up one's ego. That is difficult, but the process itself is very simple and can be learned by anyone. It just requires a little bit of study and hearing. So there are 5 minutes left of the lecture. Maybe there's 1 or 2 questions, otherwise there's time for Artik. We can chant and dance a little bit. Any questions about this subject or anything else? Everybody is free of Maya? No? Yes?
Yes, they have a long lifespan. You said that, but so many years, can a body like this, or is it more subtle bodies, or do they have different bodies?
In the previous ages, the body could be maintained for 100,000 years,
yeah.
so you could.
But was the same, or more like half-gods or something like that?
I guess you could say it was more demigod-like, but I think they were not invisible to us. I think they were still visible to us if we saw them, but they would be very much bigger, tall. Yeah. But it was consisting of the same earth, water and fire, but because there was a greater connection with the divinity, then the material's energy was more warm, more spiritual. Just like Prabhupada says, if you establish a Krishna conscious rule on earth, then the earth will become like the spiritual world, because it will be protected by the Lord's mercy. So it will be like the spiritual world, even though it is a body that you have to give up. So that's how I understand. I can't remember having been there, so I can't exactly say to you how it was. I only can refer to what I've read and heard. But yes, it was the same bodies, but they were more capable. They were a better quality. Just like you have different cars. Some of them are very good and some of them are bad. Yes?
There is this story in Krishna book about Mutyukunda, who was in this cave.
Yeah.
And he slept a long time. He had been fighting for the demigods.
Yeah.
And he got that benediction to sleep for a long time. And when he woke up, then all ages and ages had passed, because he had been up on the heavenly planet. And then when he came out of the cage, he was surprised how small people
were. Yeah, they were kshudram, as kshudra, I think the word is used. They were insignificantly small. Everything had become small, because 5,000 years ago we went into Kali Yuga, and everything became smaller. Human beings became smaller and short-lived, and so on and so forth. I once saw a graph of the heat, of the warmth on the earth, and you see 5,000 years ago there's a complete drop in the temperature. It's very interesting. I once saw a scientific statistic of the temperature, climate on the earth, and from what they know one can see, but exactly 5,000 years ago, beginning of Kali Yuga, the temperature dropped. I just noted that. I don't know how significant that is, but it signifies a change. So 5,000 years ago we went into the Kali Yuga, which is a bad age, where human beings are short-lived, small, disturbed, lazy, manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya vyobhatrutaha, the Bhagavatam says. lazy, misguided, unfortunate, and always disturbed. So that always disturbed mind can be mitigated by the Maha Mantra, and especially also by reading the words of the pure devotee. Highly recommended. If you don't have one of these books, please buy. They're very not so expensive and make your life perfect. So thank you very much. Time for a little singing and dancing and then eating. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.